Hello, hello, and welcome everyone. Hello, we are back with Systems Lab Live. We are here for the July 10th edition. My opening question for you is, have you ever experienced this? You have been hired for a new project, or perhaps you have woken up Monday morning, you got your breakfast in your hand, you are in the office or virtually log on as many of us are, and all of a sudden you get a project that is dropped in your lap. So what do? What is the solution? And tonight we are going to explore what happens. We're going to explore 5 essential strategies for taking over an existing project, and I have an exciting case study for us to dive into. So before we begin, I definitely want you all to put where you are tuning in from. We are live from YouTube. We're live from LinkedIn Live. We're live from Instagram. And so this is going to be an exciting time because we are in July. It's very, very hot this week. Well, it was hot last week too, but this week is super hot. So we're going to keep on with turning up the heat and taking on these PM topics. And so we got Texas in the house. Exciting to see Texas. I'm going to pull up my Miro board. We're going to go old school a little bit. I used to do this all the time, which is have a Miro board for you all. And this is going to be way cool. And I think, yeah, this should work. Yep, this should work. I like it. Let me see right here. Okay, let's see if this works. And I think it will. So, awesome. So let's get into the topic of the day. So the theme is rescue mission, 5 strategies for taking over an existing project. And also too, I would love in the chat too for you all to be commenting on what you're working on. I'd love to know that as well, because I'm always interested in what you guys are doing. All right. So here is the scenario. I'm very excited about this scenario. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller and this a little bit bigger. But our dear friend Andrea, and this is actually a real story. This is some of my experience and also my friend's experience as well. But this is a mid-level manager and super experienced in various different parts of the branding, marketing, campaign management. This is someone that really knows digital marketing well, knows about launching brands and businesses, all the things that come with this type of industry work. Okay. We got branding and the marketing, campaign management, all the things, super experienced, right? And this is, I would say, I wanted to present this scenario to you all because I think many of us, dependent on our own personal journeys and whatnot, we've often been caught up in various different circumstances. And so I think this is going to be something that we all can learn from. So it's not just about getting new projects or new contracts or anything like that. This is about what happens when you're a part of something that has already been existing and going on, and you're hired to be what they seem to hire which is the solution. So this is Andrea. And so she is been recently hired for a brand new contract for a beauty brand. So they are working on all the things from packaging. They're working on labels. They're looking on the brand management piece, marketing. All the things are going on. And Andrea has worked with lots of big agencies, has a lot of experience. And so she's pumped. Like she was pumped to get this contract. They're excited to have her on board. But this is the interesting part of what's going on with this scenario. So truth be told, even though this is like a super, super really cool endeavor, I'm just playing around with the screen a little bit. Okay, here we go. Even though this is a really cool contract to be on, during the first week of being a part of this brand new project, all of a sudden the curtain is unveiled, which means that the true story of what has happened is now revealed. So the truth is, on the outside, this particular company, this startup, looked like things were going really well. But now, outside looking in, there are late deliverables. We got the client is fed up. The budget is overrun. There's team burnout and there is disunity. Now, if you were a part of this particular scenario, what would you do? What would you do walking into this situation? I'm going to tell you what, and there's a couple questions that I know many of you all have, which is, how come this particular person didn't know what she was walking into? How come she didn't know? Well, the company actually alluded to the fact that they really needed help. However, they didn't really dive into the details of how much help they actually really needed. Okay? And so when we talk about the budget being overrun, we're talking about, it's basically they're in the red and they need money. Okay? And there's late deliverables all around. That means that the project itself is not even being managed well. So there's a lot of questions that I'm having, that probably you have. What's going on with late deliverables? What's going on with the burnout? Why is the team not gelling? Okay. And listen, the client is fed up with all the things that are wrong with this project. So I would love to know, what would you all do in this circumstance? So if you're walking into this place, into this scenario, what would you do? What would be some of the first things that you would do? Because we're going to run through 5 particular strategies. What kind of role is it? Good question. So this is a project management role. It is contract. So it's contract. So they are in a little bit of consultation, but it's mainly a contract role. This would be more so technical PM role, which is good for us to color the story. This would be more of a technical PM role. Again, this is brand, beauty, campaign management, that type of thing. And we can even make some adjustments on the fly to kind of color this up a bit. Oop, I'll put this, I will put this here. Let me give it a sticky right here. And I want to put this right here. So we're going to say this is a PM. This is a PM. This is a technical role. I love that this question is asked. This is technical role. And what's interesting about this as well is that this particular person was hired after the last PM was fired like 6 to 8 months ago. So that gives us a clue about the late deliverables and the burnout. Okay, third-party vendor or recruitment firm. Ooh, I like that we're going deep. This would be a recruitment firm, which I think is really important for the story, because many times if you are a freelance PM, you may find yourself in a situation where a company is using a third-party recruitment firm, or there's like an in-betweeny type of person that's there, and you may not get all of that interaction between you and the actual company itself. So that's a really good role. That's a really good thing to point out as well, because that kind of gets into the piece of like, all right, I didn't know what the team was like, right? You're walking into a situation where the team doesn't know you. And I think for me, I think I would be super, super, kind of like, how do I win over the team? Like, how do we do that as you're stepping into this existing project? Just finding out that the last PM was fired 6 to 8 months ago, So now that you know that, we know why also too, that the budget is overrun. So we're quickly seeing, Andrea is quickly seeing that upon her first week, she has lots of hurdles. In addition to getting a handle on deadlines, deliverables, trying to assess where the project is so that the project can get back on track. So I'm telling you, it's getting the story is getting it's getting juicy, you know? So do you have any comments, Kit Kat Nat 9? I'd love to know what you're kind of thinking through with this. Okay, cool. So as we move along the story, I think we kind of got the particular case study and the mission. I kind of want to go through the 5 strategies for taking over an existing project. Okay, cool. So before we begin, let's look at this comment. Okay, then it's up to the PM to do the due diligence. When the project started, all teams engage existing plan. Existing plan and all collateral created, budget allocated, and burned through, risk documented before and now. Andrea's on site. Ooh, okay, this is really, really good because I think we're definitely going to address a lot of what you're saying right now. Okay, so assess the current state of the project. So this is what these are the 5 essential strategies that are needed when you are taking over an existing project. So whether you are being hired to take over for a project, someone got fired, or you're just being handed the project because there are a reprioritization, right, on the team or within the company, you may need to take over somebody else's work. Regardless, this is not an easy feat, but it's not impossible for you to successfully be able to take over the project. So in this particular circumstance, Andrea is the new kid on the block, new to the company. She has been hired through a recruitment firm. We all know the issues at this point. Budget is overrun, team disunity, late deliverables. So she's in her first week saying, oh my goodness, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And how do I do it? Okay. So the first thing she's going to want to do is assess the current state of the project. So what specifically does that mean? And what does that look like? So what this means specifically is she's got to understand the project's scope, the deliverables, the timeline, the budget, and the key issues. Okay. So she has to understand what this project's about, which she has at a high level. But see, it's good to see the scope of work statement. It's good to see any type of project documentation. So what does that mean? You have to go in and start to talk to folks. You have to start to introduce yourself. You got to start to establish these relationships. Now, depending on the culture, and again, this is where things get a little because we don't know what type of culture that Andrea is walking into. But dependent on where she's at, this could be pretty simple to do, or this could be super, super challenging. One of the things that a friend of mine recently said to me when she was going through this particular scenario is that nobody wanted to help her. Pretty much whoever took over the project from before, it was another vendor. It was she was still working with the engineering team and everything. And so she had a really hard time getting the documentation from the other PM and the PM team. So that was a huge, huge issue that she had. She would go, she would ask people, she would say, hey, what's been documented? What's been done? And it was like door after door after door. So, you know, that was already too much for me to handle, was that all these shut doors. So what do you do? My solution was that you just keep on knocking. Somebody's got to answer. Somebody's got to answer. Because it's all fun and games until what? Nobody gets paid. and the project doesn't get done. You know what I'm saying? That's that. I mean, that's straight up. It's all fun and games until no one gets paid and the project is not done. So this is why I am a super, super advocate of everyone. It doesn't matter what industry that you're in. If you are working for an entrepreneur, a nonprofit, for-profit, a corporation, government, documentation is the name of the game. Document everything. And it just may mean that you yourself have to work with somebody else to do documentation, but you got to be on it with the documentation straight up. Like you got to be on it. What's happening, Grace? What's happening, J Square on Instagram? Great to see you all. So assessing the current state, you got to find out what's the deliverables? What's the timeline? What about the money? The money is a huge thing as well. So how does the company work when it comes to the contract management, the vendor management, the payment, all these types of things? You're going to want to know how does the money work? Can you get extra resources? And so one of the aspects of PM work that I know that is not often talked about out loud, I should say, is the importance of having a budget plan, like a money plan. Like what's the money rules, so to speak? And not just a money rule of like, oh, we just go and we just allocate the resources when we get the check. And no, like what is the money plan? Like who monitors the requirements? Who monitors resources? How do you staff up? Like what's the plan? What's the plan when it comes to the money? What does it take to get the project done? And how do you create a budget plan that supports the project, but also the company's processes and everything? And that's something that I think we got to talk more about. So maybe we'll do something about the money. We'll maybe do a live stream and we talk all about money and what do we do about that. Let's take a quick pause before we go to 2 through 5. And let's see. We have some comments. Alert the third party vendor of the issues and the manager they report to. So this is really good because what I think is important is in this scenario, Andrea would need to make sure that she is communicating to the management company, the third party person that's involved, the company that's involved, what's happening, right? I think keeping an open line of communication, not only to the actual company itself, but also to the manager that they report to, you need to keep an open line of communication. You got to do it. I think that is super important. We also have this right here, reassess expectations, but all that before getting to 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, reassess expectations, right? How do you do that? Like how would we go about reassessing expectations? So I think if we look at 2 and 3, and we'll look at 2, communicate clearly and frequently. And I wrote this in my newsletter about that. Practically speaking, what do we think that looks like? So I'm a big fan of setting up regular communication channels, that's meetings, that is processes, and that's the tool itself, right? Everything is very much a people-centered approach with me. I'm very much people-centered project management. We're not going to set up a tool and think about the people. We're all about what is the culture, what is it that people are doing, what's working, what's not. But let's get our one-on-one meetings set up. Let's get our group meetings that were set up. Let's do that. Let's get an understanding back to number 1, which is how has this project been run? Like, what are the pitfalls? What are the mistakes? What's been going well? And that goes into how you communicate clearly and frequently. And so this assessing of the current state, and this is very interesting. Someone that is the co-CEO of Pattern Beauty, she said she just recently was appointed a couple months ago. Someone asked, what is her role? What's her role now? She was formerly with Savage X, with Robin Fenty's brand. And she said that my role now, she goes, is to listen. So think about that. She is co-CEO of a huge company. Basically a big old project. Okay. It's like a big ginormous project. And she said, I have to come in and listen. I gotta learn. I gotta learn what's going on before she wants to talk about the changes that need to be made. I thought that was super powerful. So what needs to happen? Application. Establish weekly team meetings and updates with key stakeholders. We're talking about people who write the checks, the people that are the company heads, the C-level suite executives, ensuring that everybody's involved and they understand what is going on. That's going to be the most important thing, is this scenario of like, okay, what's going on? Why is it happening? What's the update? How are we fixing it? That is what, when we talk about top tier communication, y'all know the communications, that's one of my jams. The powers that be, they just want to know that if the fire is going on, they want to know that A, you either have put it out, or two, you got the plan and the fire extinguisher. Shh. I think that's the sound you make. Shh. The fire extinguisher to put out the fire, right? You got your gear on and you're like, I'm suited up, ready to solve the problem. Okay. So that's what we're looking at when we're talking about communicating clearly and frequently. We're talking about transparency. We're talking about reducing the mishaps and misunderstandings. And again, this may take a little bit of time to establish. And this is all dependent on, again, culture, deliverables, timeline, and things. You may only have a week, you may only have a few days, you may have more than that. It just is going to depend. Now, when we talk specifically about clarifying roles and responsibilities, this is where, and I know I labeled this 1 through 3, but 1 through 5, and this does not necessarily mean that you have to do it sequentially in this order, but you may be doing 1 and 3. You may be doing 2 and 3 together, right? You may be doing 2 and 5 in a meeting, right? Like, so I think that's really important to know, that this doesn't mean that this has to be like 1, you got to do this, and then 2, you have to do this. Clarifying roles and responsibilities, my friends, means knowing what people are doing, knowing what they're responsible for. Part of the team disunity, the burnout, and miscommunication is that people don't know their roles, their responsibilities. They don't know what to do, when to do it, and how to go about doing it. They don't know. Now, this is outside of people's skill level and expertise. We're just talking through the process of somebody that's a part of your team that's like, it's like, I don't even know what to do. We're not even communicating well enough. We don't have the project plan in front of us, as that's number 4. I don't know if what I'm working on is dependent on what somebody else is working on. Come on, dependencies. Who knows about dependencies? Come on, somebody. That's it. That's truly it. So that level set has to be done. I like that. So hold on, let me go back here. And differentiate herself from the prior and all other PMs. So as she is acclimating herself, this is a good point, Kit Kat Nat 9. As Andrea is onboarding herself, getting herself acclimated, she has to win these people's trust. Before we get into like, I'm going to have to blow up what we've done and start to, dive inside of the work, she has to build trust, which means she has to listen. That means she has to learn. That means she has to come in, and even though she needs to assert herself, and this is why having a backing of management, C-suite, whomever, is going to be very important, to be able to say, hey, this is our person. This is the one who is going to steer the ship the right direction, and let's welcome this person. And so having that level of backing is good. I know that not all the time that works. So having someone that is really a team member that can also help to ease the tension of somebody else coming in is also going to be really key. So I think that's important as well. Who's going to be that other person that's going to help talk to the others that you can be able to partner with to say, all right, give me the goods on everyone in terms of how they're working, what's really going on, that sort of thing. And not in a manner in which it's like, we're not talking about folks, but we are really just getting the lay of the land of the culture. Because sometimes if it's not going to be that inviting, you're going to need to know who it is that you can kind of partner up with to get an understanding of who everybody is. So, and if she isn't getting, and then we have another good comment. If she isn't getting communication, she can't do 3 through 5, which is why which is why your order is actually good. Okay, so yeah, the option is you can do it in sequential order, or you may be having to do a combination of 1 and 3 or 2 and 5 or whatever, just depending on what the scenario is. She has to have an internal advocate ensuring that the teams involved will work with her, and that's true. So that's truly what we're saying is we want to have an internal advocate. So I think we've summed up quite nicely 1, 2, and 3, where Andrea's coming in, or picture yourself in this scenario. You're assessing what's been going on with the project. You're getting the scope, the budget, the documentation. You're reading emails. You're signing into Microsoft Teams or Slack or whatever technology tool that has it. Now, for those of you that are saying, hey, I don't have anything, well, this is where you have to speed things up and get creative. And this is why 2 and 3 is going to have to be your particular mission. It's going to be like you're kind of like your mission impossible, but we know you can make it possible. So this is why you're going to have to gather the troops. You're going to have to meet with people, and you're going to have to start documenting and getting an understanding very quickly of what's been going on. Why has it been going on? And then what is that path forward? So when it comes to what is that path forward, it can't just be that people are sitting around and just talking and saying, okay, well, this is what we need to do next. Then this is what we need to do next, right? People are going to be talking about different tasks. People are going to say, this is what I've been working on. Hey, I think this should be our first priority. This should be our second priority. You're going to be hearing a lot of different things. You're also going to hear about what's at risk. Okay. So this is why rebuilding the project plan is going to be essential. So what does rebuilding the project plan mean? Well, this means, and we're going to double down on this because we've said this before, you're utilizing a project management tool. It could be MS Project, it could be Asana, it could be ClickUp, it could be Coda, Trello, Smartsheet, Monday. I just named 7 of them. Notion, well, Notion is really task management, but we won't get too technical here tonight. But you're going to have a project management tool that you are going to look at, and you're going to see, all right, what is overdue? What's coming up? And so what you may have to do is go and restructure the whole project, move deadlines around, push things back. And this is where you get the team involved. At no point in time do you do any of this by yourself. This means when we talk about the communicating clearly and frequently, the clarifying of the roles and everything, you are not doing anything in a silo. You are bringing the people along. Right? So when we look at the project plan, we're looking at the deadlines, we're looking at the milestones. We are ensuring that we have enough time for unexpected delays. Even though your client has said, hey, we don't have time to delay anymore. You still want to, as a PM, you got to do your due diligence to make sure that there's enough buffer time between these deadlines, these milestones that are going on. You want to make sure, because you want to make sure this is done right? And so another thing too is just assessing the current realities. This is why you got to assess the current state. This is why you have to get an understanding of what the budget is. You have to get an understanding of if there's been any rework with some of the work that's gone on. All of these things are super important when we're rebuilding the project plan. So you're going to do that inside of ClickUp or Asana. You're going to make sure that the deadlines make sense. You're going to make sure that the subtasks are outlined appropriately. You're going to see what the task dependencies are. And it's going to need to be something that everybody needs to look at and review and essentially be in agreement with, because you got people who are doing the work. So why is this super important is because this will also reduce the stress and improve the likelihood of deadlines. And when we talk about communicating to stakeholders, because you're going to be giving updates, you're going to want to have something, project status reporting, a dashboards, whatever that you want to call it. You're going to want to report back out to say, here's where we are. At first it looks pretty bad, but we've restructured the project plan and we're going to be able to get it done in X amount of weeks or X amount of months. Here's where we see that there may be some bottlenecks, but we're already working on X, Y, and Z. This is where we didn't even talk about risk management, but this is where you would need to talk to your team members about what's at risk. Straight up. So what's truly at risk? What's going to further derail the project than it already is? So you want to have those honest conversations. Okay, do the rebuild with one calmer person for each team first, and meet with the respective teams to confirm what their rep put in and then fix. So, I think this is really, I think this is a key strategy that can be done, especially if you may be in an environment where it can be a little hashtag, what's the right word for it? Maybe it's a little bit staticky. Maybe it's a little bit like a little rigidy. So this might be good to bring in one person to say, hey, this is what the scenario looks like. Me personally, I'm like, one band, one sound. Let's get everybody in a room and let's work it out. However, I do think there needs to be pre-work done before you go and bring folks in. But do a little pre-work, bring the folks in, get everybody together so they can see what's being built and get their input. But I do like the aspect of partnering with someone. I think that could work really, really well. So many of these PM tools have reporting dashboard features. So this is going to be really good, where you can pie charts, line graphs, different little report outs that they have. There's plenty of that where you can have these reports. You can look at that on a midweek basis or a weekly basis, whatever it is that you want to do. Those of you that currently have clients that that you need to do report outs for, like you're doing one-on-ones and maybe it's a longer term project, you can definitely create a simple dashboard. You can speak to it if you wanted to. You can also use apps like Miro, would be super good, where you can go and kind of drag and drop some of the data and information on there as well. Coda would be super, super perfect too as well. Lots of different ways that you can do some simple status reporting and walking through your client of what's really going on. Yeah. So there's plenty of things to do with that. Okay. Now, some other things I wanted to make sure that we cover when we talk about, last but not least, prioritizing deliverables. Okay. So this is where, especially when we are rebuilding the project plan, we really want to make sure if this is, like, what are some of the key deliverables that need to be focused on first? All right. This is why, again, having these reset meetings, these refocus meetings to re-strategize a project is super important. Getting feedback from the team of like, hey, this was needed to be done like last week, or this needed to be done a month ago, or like, we didn't really finish this correctly. We got to go back and before we try to move forward. So a good question to say, what kind of project was this? Integration, migration, a new project. So this was a multi-layered type of project. So this is where there is brand management going on. We're talking about a campaign launch. We're talking about a product launch. We're talking about marketing, social media. There was a couple of different types of things that were going on at a different time. So yes, ultimately this was a new a new product launch, but there was some branding aspects to this. There was also some social media and marketing. There's some digital marketing efforts. There was also some ads. So this was a multi-layered MarTech. Yeah, this was a MarTech project. That's exactly what we were doing. This was, yes. So prioritizing deliverables, okay? Super key. All right. Super key. This is what we're looking at when we're saying prioritizing deliverables. So we are looking at what are the most critical deliverables, and we're focusing on those first. But we want to make sure from a management standpoint, C-suite, CEO, VP, whomever, the customer and client, and the team, we want to make sure that we get an understanding of what is the most critical, right? And so that's going to be a key part on reassigning tasks, restructuring the project plan. And by doing this, we've enhanced the client satisfaction and the project momentum so that everything that is produced is on time in its high quality. It's on time and it's high quality. Well, friends, what do we think? What do we think? Do we want to add anything else to this of the 5 essential strategies for taking over an existing project? The personalities involved in MarTech are challenging. So, people management, leadership, and yeah, I mean, I think that is an important piece of this puzzle. Something that we did not put on the list itself, but I think it's really important that leadership wise, that we as PMs, so this is why I always say that the project manager in this day and age, in this era, in this year of 2024, is not just the person that's putting in tasks in Microsoft Project or ClickUp. This is someone that's a leader, a strategist, and an executor. And so you are a leader first, right? What does that exactly mean? That means that you have to come in with some humility. Can't come into every scenario. It does not matter if you have worked for other types of companies and brands and you've known how to do stuff. Every project is different. Every approach, not everything will always be different. Some strategies and things you can bring into the table, but this is why humility matters. This is why knowing your strengths matters. This is why having a good old strength finders or disc assessment is really good. If you're not a people person, that too can be super challenging. Super challenging if you are not a super people person, because now we're in a day and age where, listen, it's the people first project management. It's the people focus. It's the people aspect of it. But yeah, from a leadership perspective, you are going to want to have humility. B, you want to come in as a student and a learner. 3, someone that can also have a quick grasp of establishing their presence, and also not afraid to also challenge what's been going on. And I think that's a delicate balance. It's a for sure delicate balance. I think someone that's also a good communicator, and that's something I know that I'm always personally working on. All right, how am I communicating? What can I be doing better? Someone that's an active listener through and through. That, yeah. So we go on and on about the leadership development aspect to this as well. Well, friends, I thank you so much for tuning in. This is Systems Lab Live. We'll be back next week. I'm very excited for this live stream with about 4,500 people, those that really need to be able to see this and be able to learn, right? We're all learning and we're all growing. These are the 5% essential strategies for taking over an existing project. I have inside of my show notes, I want you all to join my email list. Join my email list. It's super easy to join, and we'll just, for those of you that are on Instagram, the link is in the bio. It is in my show notes as well, but join me online via email. It's a lot of fun. And I like to be able to email some thoughts out every week. And so we'll be picking up with clarifying roles and responsibilities in the email. And we will continue on this particular series. And yeah, I may take a variation of the 5 essential strategies. I may talk about, communicating your roles next week, but we're rocking and rolling. So thank you guys so much. And we'll talk soon. Have a good one. Bye.